Well, I wasn't expecting it to be quite so long in between going fishing. So if you recall to my last video, that was back in August, I was blanking at the end of the summer on a little area on the main lake on Virginia water that I've been putting a bit of effort in, sort of overnighters, and I'd had some good results, and then I started to sort of have a few overnight blanks, and the plan was to go away on holiday, to finish up the school summer holidays, and then get back to fishing at the end of the summer into the early autumn. Well, it kind of didn't go that way, because we're now past the middle of October. Obviously, as we know, we very sadly lost Her Majesty the Queen, and my work changed dramatically for around about 3 weeks, three and a half weeks. So this is the first time that I've actually been able to get out and have a bit of a session to get the old lines wet. So I had planned on starting to do a little bit of a winter campaign on the smaller lake at work, one of the two, on the syndicate that I bailiff, but that will now close for a number of weeks for the illuminations, the light trail that they put up around Savile Garden and around that part of Windsor Great Park. So I very nearly didn't go fishing today, but what I've decided to do is fish one of the little ponds that is spitting distance from my house. It's literally taken me less than 5 minutes to walk here with a few bits and pieces on the barra. We're on a lake called Russell's Pond. I'm guessing it's 2 to 3 acres. It's not a very big pond, but it's absolutely cracking. I used to come down here when I first started my job on the estate, and if I was working in this area, I'd stop and have my sandwiches and just watch the world go by. Lovely sort of chilly, misty morning this morning. Loads of sort of wildfowl on the lake, getting ready for winter. I've seen a kingfisher fly past, nearly clipped the end of my rods. So I'm sat here drinking my body weight in cups of tea. I've seen a few fish roll, which is really encouraging. I've ended up putting my 2 rods. It's 2 rod rule on the sort of the small ponds on the estate. So I've put both of them on where I saw a nice fish roll. It's off to the side of a snag. I know the snag does run under the water a fair way, so I had to fish a bit away from it. I have fished this lake in the past. It hasn't got anything massive in here. I think when they netted it a few years ago, there was fish close to 15 pound. I think the average stamp is anything from sort of 7 pound upwards. But I just fancy a day sat here. The sun's coming up behind me. It's going to be a glorious sunny day. Like I say, I'm going to drink as much as I possibly can in the way of cups of tea, and we'll see if we can put a couple of fish on the bank just to get back into it, really. I plan on doing a few overnighters on the main lake, start my sort of winter session. It'll probably only be one night a week. If I can sort of rustle up 2, that'd be fantastic. But obviously working shifts and having an 11-year-old son make that a little bit difficult. But we'll see what happens. So I'm going to see how we get on. I'm going to run through the kit that I'm using in a little while, because it is a tiny little swim. It's called the Dugout. It's all overgrown with beech trees and brambles. So you'll see on my video in a minute, I was just putting a few sponfuls of pellet out, doing that with a 12-foot rod. I'm having to crouch down. Little knock on the right hand rod there. So I bought my extractor rods from Sonik, 9-foot extractors, and they are absolutely spot on for this sort of fishing. I'm only casting, I don't know, sort of 40 yards at max. When I did the testing on these rods, I was chucking them 100 yards with a 3-ounce lead, so they've got a bit of stick in them if you need it. So I bought down my little 9-foot extractors and the little extractor landing net that always sort of packs down very, very small. And then I'll go through the rigs that I'm using and what I tie them up with. Again, my trusty PB products when it comes to end tackle, the hooks and the hook link and the leads and everything. So we'll run through that. It's a very basic setup. I'm using a couple of bits of fake plastic corn, because it's quite murky in here, so I just want a bit of colour, and some real oily sort of pellet, different sizes, just to put a bit of smell in and around the water, around where my hook baits are. So I've just seen something move out there, actually. So yeah, we'll see how we get on. So I'm going to finish this cup of tea, and I'm going to then run through the rod setup and what I'm using. So I will see you in a little while. Right then, so let's have a little look at the rig that I'm using. So I'm keeping it really simple. Bit of leadless lead core from PB. Fantastic stuff. You know, it is a little bit snaggy in here, and I know that if this rubs up against something, it is not going to snap. You know, I'm using 15-pound line, but I've got this leadless lead core, and I've got a good, you know, I don't know, probably what's that? Half a metre, I guess, spliced at each end, and then just a lead clip system, just so if I did catch onto anything, or you know, I got cut off, the fish isn't going to trail around a lead. So hook link wise, really simple. So I've got about 6 to 8 inches there of PB jelly wire in weed green. I absolutely love that hook link, so I thought a dog was going to come in then. Absolutely love that hook link. It's flexible enough that it sort of lays on the contours of the lake bed, but it's got that rigidity so that it doesn't all tangle up on the cast. Little weight there, little online sinker, and then I've got a small kicker there, and then I've got a size 6 PB jungle hook. Power curve, jungle hooks, and choddies are the 3 hooks that I use from PB, and they are all fantastic. They're razor sharp out of the box. You know, just to give them a bit of a spruce up, I use the rock from PB, which is that sharpening tool that I showed you, where you just push the point in and then wiggle it around. But they're absolutely fantastic. Small little micro barb on there, and then all I've done is just normal hair, not tied on with a knotless knot, and then just a couple of bits of fake sort of semi-buoyant plastic corn, and then all I'm doing is just hooking on just a small mesh bag, PVA mesh bag. Again, that's PB's PVA netting or webbing, and in there's sort of, you know, a mixture of 1 to 3 mil pellets of different sort of, you know, different oil bases, as it were, flavors. The lighter color in there are the urban nutcracker, so they're the matching ones to the hook baits that I use on most of my fishing, which is the urban nutcracker. So that's the hook link, that's what I'm using. I've just brought it in because I've had a couple of little knocks on this rod, but nothing's come of it, and because I know there are a lot of very small fish in here, I just had that funny feeling that something might have played around with it. But it's come in, it's sharp as anything, nothing's tangled up, so I just thought I'd use that opportunity just to show you the hook link, how I'm doing it. So I'm going to get this one cast back out, and then we'll have a little look at the rod setup that I'm using, because in here, tiny little swim, it's absolutely spot on, little 9-footers. So let's get this one hooked on and cast out. thorn in my arse. Oh. Right, swig of tea. That's better. Okay. Oh, go on. Okay, rods that I'm using. So I said earlier that I'm using my extractors. Now I've got the Xtractor 9 foots. I've got 3 of them, and they are absolutely bloody marvellous. The first thing I thought I'd show you is the actual rod sleeves. So you get them individually, and they all connect together. So I've got 3 Xtractor rods. I say a lot of the time, if I'm fishing some of the little back arms on the main lake, these are absolutely brilliant. You know, I don't need my great big 12 footers. So whether you've got 1, 2 or 3, doesn't matter. Connect all of these together. The Xtractor landing net, which packs down into sort of 3 parts, that goes down the side, absolutely lovely. Somewhere there, your little pouch to put your leads so they don't bang around on the blank. And yeah, so that's the sleeves that they all fit in. Now as for the rods themselves, so I've got the Xtractor 9 foots, and these are the 3-pound test curve. I like the shrink wrap handle. I know a lot of people like cork, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with them. My son has got a couple of little extractors which are the cork handles, and yeah, so and he absolutely loves them as well. So they're like a telescopic system. So the idea being is that they pack down nice and small, and then you just pull that section of the butt section out until it's nice and tight, and then obviously, you know, you put your tip section on. I say, and these are the 9 footers. And when we did the testing, we did a bit of a social with Sonik a few years ago, 2 or 3 years ago now. It must have been over 3 years ago now because it was before COVID. Up at Baden Hall, and we were giving these a good old go, basically to see what you know, put them through their paces. And we were casting 3-ounce leads over 100 yards quite easily. So yeah, so they've got a bit of go in them. You can now get the actual Xtractor reels. These are the older Tornos 6000s, I think they're called. Oh yeah, Tornos 6000s, which again I've had for some time, but they don't get a lot of use, and they're absolutely spot on. I really quite like the new Xtractor reels that have got the gold spool. I think they look absolutely spot on. So I also use these if I'm just doing a bit of a day session floater fishing. My son uses them for float fishing. So yeah, so they're a really good all-round rod. But for something like this, where there is probably just about enough room to put a brolly at a push, and it's all overgrown with beech trees, these come into their own. I will be investing in a Xtractor Spodden marker rod, because like I say, trying to use a 12-foot spod rod, should say, with a spom on it, just to put a little bit of pellet out there, wasn't the easiest, and there were a few choice words when I kept getting the braid caught around a couple of branches. So yeah, so they do the Spodden marker reel rods, should say, to go with it as well. And I say, and they do them in a 9-foot and a 10-foot, and you know, there's all sorts of options you can go for: shrink wrap, cork handles, and so on. So have a little look at the Xtractors. And the great thing about these is they actually do a starter set, which comes in a box. So it's the rod, the reels, and the landing net, I believe. So if you're thinking of getting something for somebody for Christmas, they are absolutely spot on. So there we are. Well, as you can see, there's another cup of tea down there. I've just managed to sit on a bramble bush and get a load of brambles in my backside. And even though I've seen a couple of fish roll, I haven't had anything yet. So, do I sit on my hands for another hour, or do I try and change things up? I think I'm going to have a little think. Well, it's warmed up a bit now, so I've taken the old woolly hat off and I've put the old fishing hat back on. And I thought I would just quickly show you how to tie the rig that I'm using. I say it's very, very straightforward. Good old faithful jelly wire. Excuse the noisy Canadian geese in the background. I've got about 30 of them suddenly landed on the pond and decided to have a bit of a party, so those noisy gits in the background. Right, cut myself a length of jelly wire, strip a tool on the bottom of one of the bait and needles from PB, just strip off a couple of inches of the coating, bin at the end. Two or 3 inches off there, and then all I do then is get a size 6 jungle hook, like I said earlier, one of my go-to hooks. Take one of them off there. So it's just a simple knotless knot. Before I tie the knotless knot, I'm just going to tie a little loop in the end for my hair, just a simple overhand knot. That's why you'll make sure you've stripped off enough of the coating just to get that on there. There we are, so a little knot there. Cut that tag end off with the old faithful PB cutters, sharpest fishing scissors you'll ever get. Right, so I'm just fishing a couple of bits of fake plastic corn, so that'll be absolutely plenty. I've got enough there, so just run that around the old knotless knot. Once back over the knot, stop it from slipping, and then back through the eye of the hook from the back of the hook towards the point, and then we just pull that down, make sure it's nice and tight. And then what I'll do is put a little kicker on there. Too many boxes of bits in the little tackle box, so just thread that on. And then just a weed green kicker, so that will just hold that on there nicely, and then just run your fingers on that coating a couple of times just to strain it out, or you can use some steam from a kettle. Just be careful, don't get it too hot. So that's basically what I'm doing, and then I'll measure that up. I want about 6 to 8 inches, so that's going to be about there, but I'm just going to put a little sinker on first and then tie a figure of 8 at the end. I always use a figure of 8 because it's nice and strong, and then that will hook onto my quick links that I use on the end of my leaders, and then I'll just use one of the short towel rubbers from PB, again in weed green, just to pull that on over the quick change swivel, so there's no chance of me losing my rig. So that's it, very, very simple. I say, and a couple of bits of fake plastic corn. I could also put one of my little faithful 12mm wafters on there, but I say for this, because it's a little bit murky, I want that little bit of colour for the fish to see, we'll go with the plastic corn. And I've actually spawned out a couple of spawnfuls of actual sweet corn. Can't beat the old faithful sweet corn, so that's gone out there. So yeah, there's the hook link. Well, after losing the fish about 1:30, had a lovely drop back, started playing the fish. It was going straight for that snaggy tree. Had to give it a little bit of a steer away from there, and unfortunately the hook pulled. So just starting to get packed up, ready to go, chatting to a couple of guys from work, and the left hand rod's gone off this time. Nothing massive, probably, low double, but it's a lovely little common, so I'll lift it up for the camera and let you have a little look. There we are then, lovely little common, like I say, low double, taken on I swapped over on one of the rods from the double plastic corn to a little 12mm wafter, nutcracker wafter, and this is what's come good. So that's the end of that little session. Hopefully get out and do some overnighters, but I'm pleased to have had a little day session and finished it off with a fish on the bank. So until I see you next time, all the very best.